It's 1961. A time of change has begun in the U.S., and John F. Kennedy has taken office. He's promised to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. The Bay of Pigs operation has failed in Cuba, and the civil rights movement has begun. Barney and Betty Hill, an American mixed race couple from Portsmouth, New Hampshire, also make history on September 19th, 1961, claiming to be abducted by alien beings. It's the granddaddy of them all. The first widely publicized report of an alien abduction in the U.S. But it did really happen? Well, bring out your tinfoil hats and set your beers to stun, because today we're going to try to find out.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
It's alive!
I was with you.
They're coming to get you.
God of Christ.
This is
Me?
Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
How's it going, Matt? You doing all right today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Had to rush home from work for this one, but yeah, let's get it done.
It's all, hey, got to do what you got to do. Oh, make hay when sun shines, and so to speak. Well, happy Tuesday. We're going to go into alien abduction today. And I thought, if you're going to do one, you might as well start with the first one, right? Numero uno.
This is the scariest shit for me as far as
Fuck yeah.
stuff
Me
goes.
too, man. Me too. This is, I don't know. When we talk about, serial killers and all other shit, I just get really pissed off, but this makes me want to piss my pants.
Yeah, well, I think the scariest thing for me about this is the lost time thing, because you have no idea what the fuck happened.
Yeah, well, I've time traveled before. Usually there's some whiskey involved in that, but
Yeah.
not aliens.
The lost in time is like something was in my butt. I know that something was in my butt, and I do not like this.
That's your number one concern. Oh
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
all
I
right.
find
Well,
out it's my thing.
well, if it's your thing, man. I mean, I still like you. I'm not gonna participate with you, but cheers. All right. So thank you guys again for liking, rating, reviewing, and subscribing to the podcast. It's awesome. We've had a lot of good feedback. Really enjoying all of the feedback we've been getting from everybody. So once again, I'm not doing this for anybody else, man. I'm just doing this to hang out with you, but hell, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
And the research, it's like something to do through the week, like after work. Like if I'm waiting for the kids to get home from school, it's just like, I'm sitting on the computer looking up stuff that I don't want the kids to see. It's like, oh, they're home. Close this. Nothing to see here.
Right. All right, let's dive in, man. You ready to rock and roll?
We got to give them aliens. People like aliens.
All right, if we fuck this up, we're never going to hit the end of it, so we better get this right. You ready?
Going into the first one, so.
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
You made me. I'm all right. So, Betty and Barney Hill, they lived in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Barney was employed by the United States Postal Service, and Betty was a social worker. Okay, they were both really active in their Unitarian church, and you know what that is? You know what a Unitarian church is? I would call it probably the most libertarian church there is out there. Like, you might go 1 week and they will have a Muslim come and speak at the church, and then the next week they've got a Jewish person coming to speak at the church. They're just completely open, and they kind of make their own rules. Yeah. So they were also both members of the NAACP, and Barney was a member of the local board of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, which was a big deal at the
Fantastic.
time. They were an interracial couple, and at the time it was really highly unlikely in the U.S. to be an interracial couple. It was actually illegal in many states.
Ridiculous.
I think in 1960 they made a law making marriage illegal in 31 states, like as far as interracial marriage goes. And it didn't become legal in the U.S. again until 1967. So before we even get started, I just wanted to mention that I don't think these two they were not looking for any extra attention at all when they were, when they made these claims. I think they were trying to stay as far under the fucking radar as they could because they'd want to be. I think New Hampshire was one of the only states, one of the few states where it was allowed for them to be married legally.
It doesn't seem that long ago, but man, have we grown? I mean,
thank God too, man. Yeah.
You people love each other. It doesn't matter.
That's right. That's right. I don't care if you're a furry or what, Find somebody to love you and just don't be a Elliot Rogers here. And we're good with it. So
okay, that episode's in the past. We got to let that go.
Yeah, I got to let it go. I don't think I'll ever be able to let that fucking episode go. But anyway, all right. So according to the Hills, the UFO sighting happened around 10:30 on September 19th, 1961. They're on their way back from their honeymoon. They've been driving back to Portsmouth from their honeymoon in Niagara Falls and Montreal. Okay. And originally, I think they intended to stay another day in Montreal, but like at the last minute, they started their drive back. It's like 7-hour drive for them to come back home, but they decided they're going to go home that evening. I think there might have been a hurricane forecasted to come through, and they were just trying to beat it, before it hit the coast. So
fair enough. I don't blame them.
They crossed the border and they stopped at a diner and, trying to get a cup of coffee just to stay awake to get through the rest of their drive. And they remember that when they left the diner, it's around 10 o'clock at night. Okay. So when they're just south of Lancaster, New Hampshire, Betty claims that she sees a bright point of light in the sky that moved from below the moon and the planet Jupiter, and it moved upwards to the west, like towards the moon. Okay. And Barney continues to drive along US Route 3, and Betty's like, I'm seeing a falling star, only it's going up. It's not going down, it's going up. So as this light begins to move more erratically and gets brighter and brighter, she pleads with Barney. She says, just stop the car. I want to take a look at this thing. She's thinking it's a satellite, maybe. She's never seen a satellite. So Barney gets out. Barney stops the car and gets their little dog, Delzy, out. They got a cute little wiener dog named Delzy, by the way. It's
nice.
And he's so fucking aggravated with Betty because she's just nagging and nagging and nagging. She's like, come on, Barney, just let me look at the bar. Let me look at the star, Barney.
I get that though. If I seen something like that, I'd want to stop and get out too. Like meteor showers and stuff are just fantastic to look at.
Yeah, right. So he pulls over at this little picnic area just south of Twin Mountain on US Route 3. And Betty gets the binoculars out and she sees this oddly shaped, she calls it a craft, and it's got multicolors flashing, and it's right in front of the moon. And her sister had made claims many years earlier saying she'd seen a flying saucer. So she's like, oh, maybe it's a flying saucer, and
I would check it out.
Yeah. So then Barney takes the binoculars and then he looks at it and he's like, that's not even a satellite. It looks like a commercial plane, and they're kind of along the route that, like, somebody say, like, traveling from Vermont towards Montreal, that's kind of the route they would take. But pretty soon he notices that it changes direction and it starts kind of descending towards them. And at this point, Barney's like, okay, so maybe it's a military plane. Maybe it's not a commercial plane. And they're just messing with him because it's late. They're like one of the only cars on the road. So he gets back in the car. They drive towards Franconia Notch, which is like this little mountainous road. It's like kind of a scenic road. And they continue to drive, kind of going real slow, and so they can see it, and it just gradually gets closer. Go ahead.
Okay, question. Are they trying to follow it, or is it following
No. They're just watching it because it's actually, they think it might be following them.
Oh, okay.
So she's just like, holy crap, look at that, and he's just like, he's getting pissed off more than likely. He's annoyed because she's just nonstop. Stop the car, let's get out and look at it. So he continues to drive down real slow through this Franconia notch, and they look at it through the binoculars, and it gets closer and closer. And at one point, this thing passes over like a restaurant and a signal tower on top of Canyon Mountain, which is another historic mark. And it comes out near this, it's not there anymore, but it was this big ledge on Canyon Mountain, and it's called the Old Man of the Mountain. And I think it actually fell down. But when you look at it from the north, it was supposed to be, it looked like a human face. And I think it might actually be on the plates for New Hampshire. So, yeah. So at this point, Betty, she's looking at this thing, and she's looking at this Old Man on the Mountain thing, and she's trying to judge how big this thing is. And she thinks, okay, it's got to be at least 60 feet long, and it looks like it's rotating. So they both watch as this thing moves really erratically and bounces back and forth, kind of all over the place. And it's completely silent. It's not a plane. It's completely silent. And that's go ahead.
But there's lights all around it, they're saying? And it's
spinning? It's illuminated like it would be a plane. Like it's got lights on it.
The fucking Gravitron. The Gravitron from the fairs.
Yeah.
That's what I'm picturing in my head.
Yeah.
Looking exactly
hopefully with less vomit. That would be ideal.
Stand up against this wall that sometimes just threw up all over.
So they get about a mile south of Indian Head, which is still on this same road that they're on. It's another landmark. And they say that this thing just comes down really quick towards their car and causes Barney to stop in the middle of the road. Okay. And at this point, this thing hovers about 100 feet above their 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air. Sounds like a bitchin' car, by the way.
Funky.
And it's completely filled their entire field of view. Like that's all they can see. It's like, that's how close it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And Barney would later claim that it reminded him of a huge pancake. Where's the maple syrup, bitches? That's all I'm saying.
Disco.
So he gets out of the car. He opens his trunk. He gets his pistol out, and he moves a little closer towards it. He uses the binoculars. He gets his binoculars, and he looks at this thing, and he claims he sees like 8 up to 11 people. He's not real sure. He says at least 8. And they all look humanoid, but they're not quite human. And they're all looking out of the ship's windows. Okay? And they're looking at him directly.
I don't know how you just stand there and look at that. I would
well,
have to go.
it's weird. Nope. It's like they use like some sort of mind control thing on him, because he said in unison, all but one of these people, things, whatever they were, they appeared to like, they moved towards this panel in the rear wall of a hallway in this ship, and only one of the figures in the windows that he saw remained like looking at him directly, and it was just saying to him, it was looking at him, and he could not break eye contact with this thing, and it was just like telling him, stay where you are and just keep looking at me. And okay. I've got a clip here for you, and it's fucking creepy as fuck.
Some of these that are great.
You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
You can remember everything now. It's right over my right. God. What is it? And I try to maintain control so Betty cannot tell I am scared. God, I'm scared.
It's all right. You can go right on, experience it. It will not hurt you now.
I got to get my gun.
All right. All right. That's all. Stop. Go to sleep, Steve. You forget now. You forget it now. You've forgotten.
There's a man. And the captain, what is he? It's gonna look at me. I know this creature, this leader is telling me something.
He's telling you something. How? How is he getting it to you?
I can see it in his face.
Do you see his lips move? Yes?
No, his lips aren't moving.
Yes, go on. He's telling you.
And he's looking at me.
What did he tell you?
Stay there and keep looking. Just keep looking and stay there. And just keep looking. Just keep looking.
Could you hear him tell you?
Oh, I gotta pull these binoculars away from my eyes. Because if I don't, I'll just keep staying there.
Could you hear him tell you this?
Oh, no, he didn't say it.
You felt he said it.
I know.
You know he said
Just
it.
there, yeah. Just stay there, he's saying to me. It's
All right.
pounding in my head. Just
All
don't
right.
pull the binoculars away. God, give me strength.
All right. All
Pull
right.
them down. Run! Pull these binoculars down and run. God, if there's my God, give me strength. I gotta get away. Oh, Betty.
All right.
We gotta get away, Betty.
All right. Calm down. Calm down.
I'm driving. I
Calm
gotta
down.
get away.
Does it sound like somebody that's making some shit up to you?
The greatest actor of all time, I think, is what that's got to do.
Fuck that shit. No. You know, and later, this would be one of the hypnosis sessions. This is actually the first one that Barney has later on in the story, but I just wanted you to hear that right now because, you know, there's a lot of speculation about all of this stuff, and that doesn't sound to me like somebody that's making some shit up. That sounds to me
not at all.
like somebody
Not
that
even
is
a little.
that is recalling something that, by the way, he will not remember later. But when he does remember it, this is how he remembers it, and he's just freaking the fuck out.
When he's under the hypnosis or whatever, that's
Yes.
when he remembers it.
Yeah, that's what we just heard. That was the first hypnosis session. So, all right. So he later recalls that these beings were wearing like black uniforms with black hats, and there's red lights and wings, like or fins or something, that come out of the sides of this craft. And this long ramp comes out from the bottom, and this craft approaches what he said, it's probably 80 feet above them and like 300 feet away from them. And it just kind of slowly hovers towards him. And then he says he tore the binoculars off. He had them like a strap on him. He tore them off of the strap. And he tells Betty, he's like, they're going to get us. And he sees this thing like move again, and it's directly over their car. And he jumps back in the car, and he drives as fast as he can. And he says to Betty, you know, just look for this thing. And she rolls down the window. She kind of sticks her head out, and she looks up. And then immediately they hear this rhythmic series of buzzing and beeping sounds. And they say that it seems to bounce off the trunk of their car, and the whole car vibrates, and they feel this tingling sensation, and they like kind of go into a trance. And the next thing that they remember is another set of these beeping sounds, and that's when they kind of like come to. And when this happens, they found they've gone like 35 miles, and they only have like just vague, spotty memories of any of the road. And the only thing they can recall is making this sharp, unplanned turn, like hitting a roadblock, and then seeing this fiery orb in the road just like shoot up into the sky.
So it's kind of like maybe they were still being guided. Maybe like he was still underneath something. If he wasn't planning to make the turn, he just
this is the whole lost time thing, which we'll get into a little bit more later. But
oh man.
So they get home about dawn, and they they're kind of out of it, and Betty is insistent on leaving their luggage at the back door. And they look at their watches. Their watches have stopped working, and they both quit at the exact same time.
Okay, what's the how long of leaving their luggage at the back door? Was it just like, don't bring that?
She just has this odd feeling. She has this odd feeling like that there's something wrong. Okay. And then Barney notices that the leather strap from the binoculars is broken. And
he doesn't remember pulling it off his face?
No.
Is that what it is?
And
he doesn't remember that part?
His shoes, and his shoes, like he's got on his best dress shoes, and they're all scraped up, and he doesn't remember them being scraped up. All right.
The tops?
Yeah.
The tops.
And he says he's compelled to look at his junk. Like he goes to the bathroom and just like looks at his junk.
So his wife is scared of their clothes, and he feels the need that he has to go look at his stuff. He's got to look at his business.
And they don't find anything like out of the ordinary, but they both took like long showers, and they just feel like they're dirty.
Like they listen to our podcast and they need to get clean.
Yeah. Like they had to listen like 4 episodes in a row. So they both take showers, and they draw pictures of what they can remember, because they do remember the craft.
Okay, so they do this together, or
they do.
Did they do it separately?
They do it together.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, good call.
So they try to like reconstruct the order of events, and as they witness this thing, and as they drove home, and then they remember hearing the buzzing sounds, and then they get to the buzzing sound part, and all their memories get really fucked up. They're like completely fragmented. So they go to bed, and then Betty wakes up, and then she looks at the shoes and the clothes she was wearing, and she sees that the dress has a tear in the hem, and she also notices like this weird pinkish powder or something on her dress. So she hangs it on the clothesline. And she knows, like the dress it's not fixable. It's completely damaged. So she throws it away, but then she changes her mind, pulls it out of the trash, and she hangs it in the closet.
I do remember, because I know I had heard this story in the past somewhere, but was it not like her absolute favorite dress? Like they were dressed to the
Yes, this was her favorite dress. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Like his shoes wouldn't have been scuffed for any fucking reason, and her dress should not have been all jacked.
Right. They were in their they were on their honeymoon. They were, dressed to the nines. They were having a good time. They were trying to look snazzy.
They didn't notice this stuff though. She just had a feeling like we should leave those clothes out there, but then they start noticing that the clothes they're wearing themselves are messed up. Okay.
Right. So later on, these clothes would be examined in 5 different laboratories, and like forensic type analysis would be done on this dress. So it's a good thing she didn't throw it away.
Yeah.
They also noticed that there's these tiny little circles on the car trunk that had not been there the previous day. And after she calls her sister and tells her sister about this, her sister talks to her neighbor who is a physicist, and he mentions to them, he's like, well, get out a compass and see what happens. And they move the compass around to the spots, and the needle just kept moving around, like just whirling around in all these different spots of these circles.
Yeah, you hear about that a lot. That's why I'm glad you said physicist, because I was like, who would have even thought to fucking try that?
Yeah. And I think that's fucking weird.
It's super weird.
All right, so the next day, September 21st, Betty phones in Pease Air Force Base and reports the UFO encounter. And she doesn't give them all the details because she doesn't want them to think she's a freak show. So,
okay.
And then the next day, Major Paul Henderson, he telephones the Hills, and he wants more details. So he asks for an interview. And in his report, he determines that the Hills had probably misidentified the planet Jupiter. And that's really it. He forwards his report to Project Blue Book, which is like the U.S. Air Force's UFO research project, if you're familiar with that or not.
Yeah, that's what he comes up with after what they told him.
Yeah. Misidentified
like
this thing as... Yeah.
It's like
Sounds
the
like the
swamp gas bullshit.
Yeah, swamp gas. Yeah, exactly. So within a few days, Betty borrows this UFO book from a library. She sees it's written by this retired Marine corporal named Major Donald Kehoe, who also happens to be the head of NICAP, which is like a civilian UFO research group. Are you familiar with them?
Yep.
Okay. It's NICAP and MUFON. It's the two big ones.
Yeah, those are the two ones. Yeah.
So she writes to Kehoe. She tells the story, including the details of the humanoid figures and all of it. And she writes that she and Barty were considering hypnosis to help recall what had happened because they didn't remember all of it. So her letter is eventually passed on to Walter Webb, who is a Boston astronomer and also a member of NICAP. And he meets with the Hills on October 21st the same year. And in a 6-hour interview, the Hills tell him all they can remember about the whole encounter. And Barney's, tells him, he's like, look, man, I've basically developed a mental block of all this. And there's probably things that happen I don't want to remember. And he goes on to say, I remember vaguely seeing like these things that looked human, but they somehow were not human on this craft. And Webb states that they were telling the truth, and the incident probably occurred exactly as reported, except for some minor uncertainties and technicalities that must be tolerated in such observations where human judgment is involved, like the exact time, length of visibility, and how many people were actually there, the exact distance of the object away from them, and all that shit.
If you're seeing something like that, you're not going to remember that shit. There's just no way. I'd be too busy going, there's no way this is happening, dude.
I don't remember
what was the distance.
I don't remember what color the underwear I wore like fucking 6 days ago. I don't know about you.
What's the distance? What was the size of it? That's always crazy to me. It's like, well, if it was far enough away, I couldn't judge the size of it to begin with, and who knows? Yeah, I couldn't come up with those either. I would be too. No. Yeah. So within 2 weeks of this incident,
Betty starts having these really vivid memories, and they just continue for her every night in succession. And
is this with the hypnosis, or
no? This is before
on her own.
Yeah, this is all on her own. And she starts writing down all the details of these dreams. And one of them, she says her and Barney encounter this roadblock, and these men surround their car, and she loses consciousness, and she's trying to wake up, and she realizes she's being forced by these two small men to walk into a forest at night. And she sees Barney walking behind her, and he seems to like not hear her. She's like calling out to him, but he seems to be like sleepwalking to her. She says these men stood about 5 feet tall and wore blue uniforms with caps. You know, earlier I mentioned, black. Barney said they were black, but she says they're blue. Dark. And it's dark, Yeah. Yeah. She said they seemed to be near human. They had black hair, dark eyes, prominent noses, and blue lips. So that's weird, huh? And dun dun dun, they also had grayish skin. And this is where we get the grays. And, you hear all these alien abduction stories after this, and they all describe the grays, and this is what they are.
This is like a Men in Black Meet the Greys kind of situation.
It's weird. Yeah, it's a strange one.
Explaining it.
Yeah. She also claims that in these dreams, she can see her, Barney, and these men. They walk up this ramp into this disc-shaped craft. It's like metal. And once they're inside it, they're separated. And she argues and she tells, these guys, just like, she calls one of these guys the leader, that, she and Barney should be examined together. And this leader tells her if they were, it would take much longer to conduct these exams. So at that point, they're taken into separate rooms. Excuse me.
I don't like any of this. This is nightmare fuel.
Motherfucker, you're going to make me sit through all these goddamn serial killers and shit. I'm going to make you sit through this shit. I hope you have some bad fucking dreams tonight.
Well, it's probably a guarantee. It's like watching the movie The Fourth Kind. Like, I could watch horror movies all day long and have no problem. I watched The Fourth Kind one time. I was like, no, I don't like that.
That's not good. All right, and then a newer dream. Betty recalls a new guy, a new man. He's really close to the other ones, but he's come to examine her with the leader, and she calls him the examiner. She says he's pleasant, calm-mannered, and that both the examiner and this leader spoke to her in English, even though it was like a strange dialect. She said it was like they were like European.
They had accents?
No, it's just like imperfect. She had difficulty understanding them. It was like like they had an accent that she couldn't quite make out.
Okay.
So
it's like they're trying to be human, but you're off a little bit.
More human than human. Yeah. So this examiner tells Betty he's going to conduct some tests on her so that they can note the difference between the humans and all the occupants of the craft. He puts her in a chair, bright light shines on her. He cuts off a lock of her hair. He looks at her eyes, her ears, her mouth, her teeth, looks down her throat, looks at her hands. He cuts off some of her fingernails, takes some of her, shaves off some skin samples, and then examines her feet and leg. And then he takes this. Go ahead.
Hang on. He trimmed her fingernails for her?
Yeah. I think he was probably like, that's for me. I'm going to save that guy for later. I don't know. Maybe he had a weird.
Oh, that's gross. Okay. All right, creepy bastard. I need a stool sample and urine as well. Okay.
All right. He then conducted a test on her nervous system and thrusts a needle into her navel, which causes her agonizing pain. And whereupon this leader waves his hand in front of her eyes, and she says the pain just like immediately goes away. And here's a clip of her. So, hold on.
Okay,
Here's a clip of her under hypnosis remembering this. No, so she's dreamed this stuff, and this is her under. I think this is her first hypnosis session as well.
Sort of in the middle of the room is a table, some kind of a table. It's not up very high, about the same height as a desk. So I lie down on the table on my back, and he brings over this can I describe it? They're like needles. There's a whole cluster of needles. And each needle has a wire running from it. So then they roll me over on my back. And the examiner has a long needle in his hand. And I see the needle. And it's bigger than any needle I've ever seen. And I asked him what he's going to do with it. And he said, just a simple test, it won't hurt me. And I asked him what. And he said he just wants to put it in my navel. It's just a simple test. And I don't know, it will hurt. Don't do it. Don't do it. And he said, no, it won't hurt. And he sticks a needle into my navel. Instead. And I'm crying and I tell him it's hurting. Take it out. And then the leader, he goes over and he puts his hand, runs his hand in front of my eyes. And he says, I'll be all right. I won't feel it. And all the pain goes away.
Fuck that.
That sounds like somebody's making some shit up to you. Sounds like she's balling
Not
in that
really.
too.
Yeah. I don't know about the under hypnosis thing. There's been some of that shit that's happened in the past that was definitely proven to be just, I don't know, maybe in a dream state and you're just coming up with shit, but
Yeah.
she believes it in that point in time anyway.
So she says after this,
What was the test for?
pregnancy.
What was the needle test?
It was like a pregnancy test.
Wow, that's a vicious.
If you want to find
pregnancy test.
all these clips, they're all on YouTube, by the way. I just picked a couple there because there are literally hours of this stuff that you can find, and I just picked a couple of ones that I thought were pretty convincing to me. I'm just listening to the tone of their voice. Don't mind the sound of the whirring fan in the background. You got to realize this is 1961. Or actually, it's not. I think it's 1963 when before they ever got the hypnosis sessions. But anyway,
I had heard a few of them, and then there's like one of Barney that really freaks me out.
Yeah,
when he's talking about the eyes. But
so Betty also goes on to say that after this was over, the examiner leaves the room, and she starts to engage in conversation with the leader. And she picks up this book with all these weird symbols. And the leader says, hey, you can take that home with you if you want. And she asks him where it comes from, or they come from. And he pulls down this instructional map dotted with stars. And she says it looks something like this right here. Can you see that behind me?
Yep.
Okay. So this is what, like under hypnosis later, this is what she draws to describe what she sees.
Oh, she was okay.
Okay.
She was under hypnosis when she drew it.
Yeah. So also in this dream, she says that these men started to take them out of the ship, her and Barney, and this disagreement breaks out. And at that point, the leader tells Barney she can't take the book, stated they didn't want her to even remember the encounter. So she tells them, pretty matter-of-factly, that doesn't matter what they did to her memory, she was going to remember this shit.
Did she end up getting the book?
No, she didn't get the book. So she says in this dream they're taken back to the car, and that's when this leader tells her that they should just wait for the craft to leave, and they did. So they just started driving. And that's the end of the dream. So, this is where the missing time comes in, okay? So they're missing...
All right.
They're missing about 4 hours. Or I'm sorry, they're missing about 2 hours.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time to be missing.
Yeah. It's like 178 miles from where they were at. It should have taken them 4 hours. It took them like 6.5, 7 hours to get there.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's a long time.
That is.
And like I said before, they don't really remember much of that 35-mile stretch.
I was going to say, and what do you think the one was telling her that she could keep the book, just try to calm her down or something? Just like, no, you can have it. We're friends.
It's all speculatory, man. I'm not going to say one way or the other. This thing is, I guarantee you, if we get any hate mail, it's going to be on this one right here. That's why I'm just going to say it's all speculatory. I have no idea, no comment.
Love this shit.
I'm just giving you as much of the facts that I found on this as I can. Okay. Like I said, at that point, they don't really remember much. They just remember being 35 miles further south than they can remember, like when they heard the first buzzing to the second buzzing.
Okay.
So, pardon me. So, they are, by February of the next year, 1962, they're making frequent drives back to the White Mountains, and they're trying to figure out exactly where the fuck they were at. Because, number one, it's driving Betty nuts, and Barney he's fucking stressed as can be about all this shit. He wants to forget about it. He wants to leave it in the past. But Betty just keeps bringing it up, and he knows until she knows what's going on, it's not going to stop. So
it's not going to end.
Yeah.
So is she thinking that if they find the spot, it'll jolt up some memories or something? And
yes.
Okay. All right.
And then they find what they think is the spot where they were captured, but it's not until 1965, which is 4 years later.
4 fucking years of that?
Yeah. Okay.
I kind of get it, though. If I went through something like that, I would probably want to do this. I'd want answers, too. It's just so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally. You totally would.
Crazy that you would want... Yeah.
It's knuck and futz, man.
And
all right, so...
I get the back and forth, too, of wanting to know the answers and never wanting to talk about it again. So...
Well, she just...
So if they're button heads...
Yeah, that's all she wants to talk about. And Barney's just like, let's fucking forget it,
I get that. Okay.
So, November 1962. So, we're over a year from the incident. This guy named Captain Ben Sweat from the United States Air Force, he is a guest speaker at their church, and it's on hypnosis. So the Hills go, and they watch his presentation and listen to him speak, and then after, they kind of privately relate their incident with him, and they ask him if he would hypnotize them so they could remember what was going on. But he's like, wait. He's like, I am an amateur hypnotist. I do not recommend doing this. So Hill's tell him, okay, well, Barney's going to the psychiatrist, this Mr. Stevens, and Captain Sweat, he's like, okay, well, he should probably talk to him about this because he would probably have more of an idea of what's going on. Go ahead.
Captain Sweat sounds like the worst fucking comic book character of all time.
I'm thinking like a porno character myself, but
okay. I was like, what is your superpower exactly? Perspiration.
Stay away from the antiperspirant. So when Barney goes to meet his psychiatrist next time, he asks him about hypnosis, and Dr. Stevens refers him to Benjamin Simon in Boston. So in 1963, so even another year after that, November. So we're 2 years past this.
They aren't letting go then.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. 64. It's January 64 when these hypnosis sessions come to play. So Simon begins to hypnotize them in January of 64, and he does them both separately, and he does them both several times. These sessions last until June of that year, and he does them separately so they could not overhear each other and their recollections.
Yeah,
and at the end of each session, he reinstates amnesia, so they do not remember what they've told him.
Oh, that's some power right there to be able to do that. If that's
That makes it more. What's the word I'm looking for? Yes, very. It makes it way more believable if their stories match up. You know, like we talked about Harry Price and the fact that he fucked things up from the get-go. This guy's doing shit the right way.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
Yeah. So
way more of a professional than.
Yeah. So that both of the clips you've heard in this episode came from those very first hypnosis sessions. Dr. Simon hypnotized Barney first. He recalled all these weird human-like figures being extremely scared. You know, he kept his eyes. Barney says he kept his eyes closed for much of the abduction and the physical examination. He would not really disclose all of the things that happened to him in that first session. I think it took several sessions, but he did not want to remember. This is what he did remember, though. He says he remembered breaking the strap because he wanted to break eye contact. He said he felt like he was, under some sort of mental control. And he remembered driving the car away from the UFO. And he felt compelled to pull off the road and drive into the woods. And he said he eventually saw 6 men standing in the road. The car stalled. 3 of these men came to the car, and they told him not to be afraid. He's still really fucking freaked out, though. And then he says the leader told him to close his eyes. And he says that it feels like his eyes had pushed into his eyes. Like he was just like looking like mentally like just into his head. So Barney's description is very similar to Betty's dreams. And he says it was terrifying. They had this mesmerizing effect on him. And he's, he said he kept his eyes closed so much because he saw these 2 eyes just coming at him, and they were just felt like they were in his head, like pushing into his head. All I see is those eyes. This is a quote. I'm not even afraid that they're not connected to my body. They're just there. They're just up close to me, pressing against my eyes. Fucking weird shit, bro.
Yeah, it's that quote on the video that you can listen to when he's talking about it, and how the way he says it, it's just like, fuck, I believe that guy.
Yeah.
It's terrifying the way he's saying it.
Yeah. He says that once they were taken on the craft, they were separated. He was escorted into a room by several of these other men. He was told to lie on a small exam table, and he closes his eyes most of the exam. He says a cup-like device is placed over his junk, and although he did not experience an orgasm, bullshit, he thinks that they take a sperm sample.
Joy-free, I guess.
I don't know. He also says that similar to Betty, that they scrape some of his skin, look in his ears, his mouth. He's got a tube or cylinder inserted into his ass and quickly removed.
Every fucking time. Every time. Every time. There's something up the butt. Every time.
What? Up the butt. And he said also that he felt like they were pushing something on his back and seemed to be like counting the vertebrae in his back.
Okay.
While Betty says, she had a conversation with the leader in English, Barney says that he heard them speaking like a weird language he could not understand. And he also says that it seemed to be like more like thought transference, even though like at the time he was not familiar with the word telepathy, didn't know what it meant at all. So
mouths weren't moving, but he was still kind of like an Ingrid Cold situation.
Right. He said he also remembers being escorted back from the ship to the car and watching the ship leave. That there was this bright light in the road, and that he remembered saying, "Oh no, not again."
No,
which is weird. Like it might have happened before. And he also recalled the buzzing sounds in the hypnosis. Weird shit, man.
Well, the one that they were both experiencing in the first place that was happening above the car before the whole deal happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, most of Betty's sessions we won't really have to go into because very similar to her dreams. She basically recounted all the things she'd been dreaming about. And like I said, I played that clip. She's in tears.
Yeah.
You can obviously tell that he's freaked the fuck out during the whole thing.
His was scary to listen to.
Yeah. The only thing I do want to bring up is that Dr. Simon gives Betty a hypnotic suggestion that she could sketch a copy of this star map that she saw. And that's what I showed you earlier. And later on, now, most people think it's just all bullshit, but later on, it's actually proven to be a constellation that at the time had not yet been discovered.
Holy shit. Okay, she was under hypnosis while she was drawing this map.
Yes, recalling this thing. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay.
So, and there were some skeptics that said, she just got really fucking lucky with that. Carl Sagan was one of them. But, yeah, he's a big one right there. But how the fuck, how in the fuck?
If you're under, I guess I can't explain it. Don't expect me to know what to do.
I'm not.
If you're under hypnosis,
there's lots of people that would go on to rebut most of the things that they claimed. But
drawing back their skepticism.
Yeah. But
okay.
How do you fucking pull that shit off? I mean, I'm trying to think what the name of the constellation that she remembered was called. Zeta Reticuli. Remember that? Does that sound familiar?
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool sounding name, yeah.
It wasn't actually found until after Barney had passed away. But
till the telescopes got a little bit better.
Yeah.
Then somebody matched it up later.
Yeah. Yeah. Barney died in 1969. He stroked out. And I have a feeling a lot of the stress from this incident had to do with that.
Stress.
Yeah.
Stress never left him.
Yeah. And Betty would be a spokesperson for abductions, UFOs, the rest of her life. She lived to 2004. And she smoked she smoked herself to death. I got a feeling she smoked a couple packs a day. But if you want to learn more about them, you can easily find out more info. I just wanted to hit the main gist of the story for today, and I think we pretty well covered the bases. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, Matt?
I just knew this story loosely. Like
Yeah.
I knew about the sessions because I had listened to some of the stuff, and it's just another one of those things when you get into alien abductions. It's just like, man, I don't know. I guess I believe because
You better fucking believe.
I've seen stuff too.
They're gonna come
but-
stick some shit up your ass too.
Yeah,
I signed you up, man.
don't like that. Don't like that at all. It's not my jam.
But yeah, that is the
two of them.
That's the granddaddy, man. That's the very first alien abduction in the U.S. that was ever widely talked about, and it just happened. It just happened to be.
Gain.
Yeah, they had everything to lose.
Nothing to gain.
Mixed race couple in the middle of, the whole civil rights movement. So that's not where you want to be.
Yeah, and we wasn't even to the Summer of Love yet. That wasn't until '67, so they were ahead of their time.
Yep.
Wasn't even MK Ultra yet.
Actually, it probably was, but that'll be a different episode.
It might have been the start of it, actually. But
I think it started in the 50s. But
we'll have to get into that because it's been a while. But yeah, they had nothing to gain by doing this, and it killed him. The stress of it killed him.
It totally
he said
did.
he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to remember
and
it.
these weren't like freaky deaky people that were like, I mean, these were upstanding people in their communities.
Yeah.
You're talking about people that were fighting for civil rights at the time, which was a huge fucking deal then. And upstanding members of their churches. Their friends all said, some people say, well, they're a mixed race couple. That was probably hard for them. They claimed that they didn't have a really hard time where they were at. All their friends were very understanding and accepted them. And that had nothing to do with it. It was all about this experience. And members of their family still today, you can go and find lots of interviews and documentation on YouTube of them playing a lot of this stuff from all the research that was done with this particular incident.
I wish she could have snagged that book, though. Man,
Been fucking sweet.
she could have got away with that book.
Yeah. Pretty fucking sweet. Well, Matt, you got anything you want to say before we sign this bitch off?
No, well, just thanks to everybody that listens and likes it. I'm just happy people enjoy the same kind of weird shit that we're into and talk about. So it's great to have them aboard. More people following on Facebook, and even though I don't exactly know how that shit operates, it's going okay.
If you want to follow us on Facebook, you can do so at facebook.com/HMFPPOD. And we're also on Instagram at Instagram. What's the keyword? I think it's Hello Mr. Fancy Pants, but it's Mr. Period Fancy Pants.
There you go.
And then you can also always hit us up on the old interwebs. You can email us at hmfppod@gmail.com. Continue to like, rate, review, subscribe.
It
And
helps.
always a good time, Matt.
Get those emails in, please, if you've got a story and you want to tell. I can't wait. I hope this happens. I seriously hope this happens. I can't wait to hear like true stories that people have went through. It's gonna be so good.
Hopefully they're not as
Be
weird as
part
this
of
one.
the show.
All right, guys. Till we see you again.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. Later.
Later.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
They're coming to get you.
Hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.